Hello and welcome back to Talkin Pitchside. I'm your host PJ with my co-host Tony, with a little bit of energy today, Tony, because we are back. We are back. We are less than a week away to MLS games happening here in the United States, and I couldn't be more excited. I need it. I'm sad I'm not going to be here for the opening weekend, like we've talked about in previous episodes, because we're going to be in London. But we've been texting with some of our friends. This episode might be my favorite episode of the year, only because this is when I'm not wrong. Like no one can tell me I'm wrong today when I make my predictions. They can be unhappy, but they can't tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. They can cash a check, though. Like, this is like you writing the check for like 10 months down the line.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Like, you were wrong.
Get the receipts, yeah.
There is some firepower with it. We are putting our necks out there. And many people out there have the luxury of just sitting in there, on their Twitter fingers, just like, oh, that's wrong. You got to move them here, this, there. No accountability for them. For them.
Yeah.
We need to go back to those people on the receipts and be like, remember when on the one time we do hit something right, we go back to them and say, what was that again? What'd you say here?
End of 2026, we're just going to go to all the people on social media that doubted us, and we're just going to be like, send me your picks. Put your picks out here. Show me your predictions. Oh, did you have Montreal winning the league? Didn't think so. I did, and it happened.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But, like I said, we're going to be doing this Tuesday episode back to Tuesday episodes. So if you're getting this notification on Tuesday, that is real. We are back doing 2 episodes a week, so we appreciate you guys tuning in for this one. So today is all about the season predictions. We're going to go through both the conferences where we see them standing. Similar to the kit last episode, if you were a viewer and watched it either on Spotify or YouTube, you did see that we had a tier list we were putting the kits in. We're going to do that with the teams here. We got a fun little tier list here that have some funny names to them. So we're going to do that alongside of our standings first, and then we'll go into Golden Boot, MVP, and just some bold predictions for the year as we talk through these teams. I'm sure there will be some hot takes that come out, and probably both of us have some teams that people are going to be shocked by how low we have them in our standings. So let me pull up this list really quick, Tony, and let's go through this because I'm excited. I'm really interested to know who your teams are that you have in the bottom tier. So as you can see, if you're a listener, the tiers are called from the bottom to the top. The lowest tier you can be on is Spoon Watch, Wooden Spoon Watch. Mm-hmm. The next tier up is unlikely to win anything, and more unlikely to contend at all. The tier in the middle is Show Me More. So a team that you could see competing in some degree, maybe it's like a Leagues Cup run or something like that you believe they could be in the mix, but you still need to see more from maybe a new transfer. The tier above that is Contenders. So these are the teams that you're like, I can truly see this team competing for a trophy this year. And then the final tier at the top is just called Miami. And I think you're going to know who's going to go in that tier. And it's a tier above a lot of other teams right now. But Tony, to kick us off, I think we start. Do you want to go west or east first? Where are you feeling? Are you?
Let's go west. Let's go west. Spice it up a little bit. East always goes first. I think we got to show the West a little bit of love.
Okay, let's do West first. Tony, hit me with your let's do 15 to 13 right now in the Western Conference.
Okay, so the bottom 3. Okay.
Yep.
Well, let me explain this because this is going to make a lot more sense explaining it now because this is how kind of I came up with my rankings as a whole. I should talk that through just for a second. Just like everybody else, I kind of like do a first blush, you kind of just feel it out and see where you're at. But then I also said, you know what? We're on a podcast. I'm putting my face out there. I need to do a little bit more. I got to put some validity into this. So I ran the numbers.
Okay.
And basically what I did was look at basically how each position finished since COVID, how many points they had, average that out and said, all right, so last place, the average is going to get 28 points. So figure, okay, now who did I put in last place? Does that make them more or less? And how many points more or less? And then kind of fact check myself and just say, hey, I think that I don't think this team got that much worse, or I don't think that team got that much better. So that's what I'm really like looking at when I do these. As my light went out, so hopefully you're not watching me. You're
By the
watching the
way,
tiers anyways.
quick jump in for
Yeah,
the listeners. Mine's all vibes. So if you want to get at
yeah.
the
We got
nerds
both.
and the numbers, you go after Tony. If you just don't like my vibes, you can come after me for that. I will accept that.
Fair enough. So here we go. My bottom three, since you asked, on the West. We'll start at the bottom, Sporting Kansas City. Don't think there needs to be a bunch of explanation with that.
Mine's different, but continue.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, they barely have a senior roster. Dejan Joveljic is the only thing that's going to get them to the amount of points that they will get, which, again, last place is roughly around 28 points in the West. So, yeah, I think that they're absolutely on Spoon Watch. They were on Spoon Watch last year. And while there is a new GM, while there is a new coach, those are all great things, but it really seems to be a slow burn type deal with how they're going to flip that team around. And, yeah, so that's where I'm at with them. 14th, St. Louis. I saw their new jersey and decided that that's enough. This is a losing team. But I put them there mostly because I just look at how this team's moved. They kept Roman Berkey. I think that's a good thing. They lost João Klaus, so Simon Betcher is going to be starting a striker. I think that's, whatever. And then it's been smaller on the moves. Otherwise, than they've boosted the defense a little bit, picked up Fall, but there's nothing that's like screaming like, oh yeah, this team gets better. And really, it feels like maybe a smidge worse. So really, that averages out to like they're dropping 4 points year over year there. And then for 13th, I put San Jose. Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it in the net. Timo Werner, hopefully that works, but that is a huge roll of the dice. We really don't know if that's going to work or not. He's got the pedigree, but he does not have the minutes right now. So I think that's a massive gamble. And then subtract out of the equation Espinoza, subtract out of the equation Joseph Martinez, subtract out of the equation Chicho Arango. This was a team that was terrible on defense and didn't do anything to address that. I just think that they're going to end up 13th here, and that's 8 points worse than where they were last year. So that's a big drop, but I just think in the net, like the Timo stuff is fun, but outside of that, it's not looking good for them.
Okay. I respect it. I'm going to have some qualms
Go for it, yeah.
about that one specifically down the line here a little bit, but I'll get to that when I get to that. This is just where I'm placing these right now, or just where we can move these around. I think by the end we might be shifting a little bit. So my bottom three of the Western Conference this season, I have St. Louis as 15th. So not the same reasoning. I just don't see how this team improves this year currently.
Yeah.
I don't see any improvement, and even though they have a full senior roster, I just don't even know if that senior roster is better than Sporting Kansas City's semi-filled senior roster at this point. And that's the difference. I mean, I've Kansas City 14th, just to be clear. Like those two are really interchangeable. I think this is going to be the bottom two for almost every single person predicting the Western Conference this year, and I hope for the fan base's sake that there's a little more bounce back, a little more fight than we're anticipating. I think SKC, I think why I have them higher is just I anticipate them to do a lot more in this summer window. Like I can see them being active after the World Cup and pushing and making a move that could help this team. I mean, of course, maybe not contend for anything, of course, this year, but build something for the future and maybe get somebody that was on one of these World Cup teams and make a pitch and sell them being like one of the new stars of the team. So that's what I'm hoping for SKC fans, and why I have them one spot higher than St. Louis. I have a pretty crazy one as my 13th team. I was doing this, by the way. I was doing this, and I ended at this point. So I got to 13th, and I was like, have I really not put this team down? And a lot of people are going to be really angry at me about this one. You might even be angry about this one. I've got Minnesota as my 13th team this season. Maybe one of the biggest drops we'll see in a year. I'm not going to put them in Spoon Watch. I don't think that's fair to them. I know they got James Rodriguez. I know that's a fun sign. We've talked about it. Like, hey, get your 6 months of enjoyment out of this. So maybe he can have an impact. And I know we've heard people say like this is the type of trap signing that this could be. He's going to play really well because he wants to be good for the World Cup, and then you sign him to a multi-year deal, and then he's really bad after that. My biggest like I think it's harder for me to sell myself on the upside of this team than it is to sell me on all the things that could go wrong because I think the things that could go wrong are so much more likely. There's just so much new with this team. There's so much new. The amount of players they've changed, the coaching staff has changed.
Mm.
It's all new. And for this to go right, everything has to go right. And then all within all this new, you just dropped a bomb in James Rodriguez. That's an entertainment bomb. And I'm happy they did it. I've talked about it. I love that they did it. But if something goes wrong here, which has happened in some of his previous stops where he's not happy, this could blow up really, really fast. And it could go off of the track really fast. So that's why I have it. I went very pessimistic on their outlook for the season just because I could see those things happening. I could also see a scenario where I could be completely wrong. James Rodriguez does awesome, like I said. They get enough points in the first half, but I still don't envision any scenario if he comes back in the second half of the year that it goes well because I think the come down for him specifically is going to be pretty significant in terms of what he's playing for. So I have them really low. I know it's tough. I know it's pretty brutal, but I feel bad that this fan base has had to go through all the changes they have because there's a lot of players leaving that were very unhappy at Minnesota and are happy to be elsewhere. Robin Love,
Yeah,
we've heard talk about it. I mean,
right.
these
Yeah.
type of guys that aren't happy with how Minnesota's being ran, and I think you saw that to the fullest extent in this offseason when you had guys basically just like heading out and not really looking back. Like they were like, okay, I'll move on to a better spot and have more fun. So I have them there, and we'll see how it turns out.
So, just to be the numbers nerd for a second, with you putting Minnesota there, you are saying that they are going to do 25 points worse this
Yes,
season.
dude, look at
So they're going to lose 8
Dane,
more games that
Dane
they
St.
would have
Clair
drawn.
might be
Or
Dane St. Clair might be worth 15 of those points that he saved them last year.
ooh, I don't know about that. I mean, like yes, he's worse, but he has not saved 5 games alone.
Okay,
I
I'm just it's not just one guy though.
so
They've
and
had a lot of guys leave, and I just
absolutely
don't
for
I
sure.
don't
But
believe
this
in
is
the
still
attacking talent on this team, and that's my fear.
well, and the old Minnesota form did not give you any reason to. But
Yeah,
I think what we're seeing is that this is a team that is going to be a little bit evolved. It's not going to be Ramsey ball anymore.
we'll
Um,
see. But
we'll
we don't know
see,
what
but
ball it's going to be. Everyone comes out preseason saying this new way is great. Everything the vibe's really high, but it's a new coach and they're running a whole new system with a lot of the old players still, and it will be interesting to see how it all comes together.
well,
I just
I
think
don't
it's a
know if
lot
they're
of
running the new
variables.
system. Yeah, it is a lot of variables for sure. And don't get me wrong, I still have them in a drop off year, but I think that this is going to look a lot different. This is not going to be a Minnesota team that wants 35% possession. They're going to be okay with like 45
Yeah,
percent, but they're going to adjust some. And like, there's still a lot of good pieces on this team, even though you lose, an important goalie, an important striker midseason. I mean, Kelvin Yabo, I think has bones. You know what I mean? I think he can still play. They got Drake Callender, which I know that it's not nothing. Like he's a starting caliber goalie. I
no,
know it's
yeah,
not
I
goalkeeper of
agree.
the year, but anyways, Minnesota rant over. Definitely
Yep.
wide range. I tinkered with them a lot. I'll give you credit for that, but I think that's just way too low. That's way too low.
I had him higher in my head at one point, and then I was going through the list. I just liked other teams better. I don't think it has to do with me being so down on them.
Sure.
I think the gap between Minnesota, I think the gap between whoever finishes in 13th and St. Louis and Kansas City is very large. To be clear,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I see the depth in the Western Conference being very deep, where it's like all these teams that are on the fringe of like the playing game is going to be very like basically what like last year there was a lot of teams in the mix right at the end, and I think it's going to look very similar where there's going to be a bunch of teams within like 4 to 5 points in that last range. So we'll see. Hit me with your 12, 11, and 10 here.
Okay. So at 12, I had FC Dallas. So kind of low for them. It's a drop off year, but again, just not very ambitious in this window. Their GM has been on podcasts and stuff, outspoken about getting a DP number 10, and we still have not seen that yet.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing to have someone feeding Petar Musa, who's been just a fantastic talent in this league. So I'm just worried about that overall. Didn't see a lot of improvement from them. And I didn't like to, well, it's okay. Martin Paz, their goalie, who's a really unsung hero, I think, for a lot of MLS. He ended up going out this winter, and we bring in Colodi, who a lot of people are very high on for FC Dallas and that goalkeeping situation, but it still stings me a little bit moving on from Paz. So all that to say, not too much change other than that. They were a good team without Lucho in the back end of the year, but I just kind of think this is going to regress to the mean a little bit. So that's where I got FC Dallas. Number 11, RSL. This is, again, a little bit of a downturn for them, but not huge. It's pretty similar to where they finished last year. Again, I just think that there's not much in this team to instill confidence in me. Gulavogi is, an unknown. He may come out here and just absolutely ball. We know Diego Luna is going to ball, but then he's probably gone after the summer. So you're already losing, one of your best players for half the year. And then on top of that, I look at this defense, and there's a couple of FC Cincinnati alum that just kind of are on the wrong side with their age, and I felt like they were good supplementary pieces, but not like something to build around. So that part I'm pretty worried about for RSL. So I'm a little shaky with them. And then to round out this group here at number 10, I had Colorado Rapids. This is actually historically a 1-point improvement. So congratulations, Colorado Rapids. They pretty much finished right where they're at. The big thing with the Rapids for me is what's Paxton Aronson going to be. I think it's a unique situation for him. I think being the guy at a team, it just doesn't seem to me like there's a lot of team around him, unfortunately. Zach Steffen had a downturn of a year last year. He started out the season on fire and then just kind of lost his form. The rest of his team, and the rest of this team just is kind of, I feel like a lot of lottery tickets. These are a lot of guys that came back from Europe and could work. And I think that none of them in a vacuum are bad transfers, but it just kind of feels like everything's not really clicking and unknown with the new coach, Matt Wells. We'll see how that takes too. So I stayed kind of pragmatic where I put the Rapids and kind of left them where they ended the season last year.
Okay. Mine look fairly similar. So at 12, I have Colorado. So a lot of the same points. I think I'm concerned about the team and the attack around Paxton, and also that includes Paxton and his growth. That is something that still needs to be seen. So I think there's a lot of question marks there. At 11th, I have Dallas. So very similar.
Yep.
Same question. I just see regression. I don't know what the end of last year was. Was that the team rallying because the Lucho thing went so bad and they wanted to almost like an FU, we can do without you? And I feel bad for Peter Musa because he needs help. And I hope they go get that number 10. If they get that number 10, they can quickly rise up the standing. So
it's legit, yeah.
Yes, a legit 10. So I think that is a big question mark right now I have for them. And then in 10th, I have Portland.
Ooh.
This upcoming year. So pretty big drop off. I know well-known Portland hater, Tony Allring.
Mm-hmm. I have him 9th, don't worry.
And I just see this team didn't dramatically change at all. And I don't know. They're just so up and down. I have such a hard time trusting these types of teams. And I'm concerned with their ability to really take the next leap as a group. And I think if it starts rough, you could see that start to crumble a little bit. And then you see Phil Neville rumors start swirling. And I just don't see a lot of faith happening in that situation if it goes sour at all. So that's where I have them in that situation. So hit me with your 9-8-7 at this point.
Yeah. So number 9, I teased it, Portland Timbers. I'm right there with you. This actually historically is a 0-point change for them. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like this is a team that has shown flashes at times, but I still think is pretty unsturdy in the back. Finn Sermon's kind of a fun, new, flashy thing, and probably a promising center back, but there's just not too much help around him. And then you look at this attack, DaCosta, we need to see more out of him. I think he's been generally a letdown. I have heard things though that he did have like a nagging knee thing that was not really able to get through last year. That as supposedly he has now in the offseason and getting that long rest. So maybe a little bit of optimism to shine on him there.
Yeah, he did.
Kev,
Remember, he
yeah,
did join like basically
right,
right when the season started. It was like because
correct.
he had to wait on his visa, and there was like a hold up, and I don't even know. Did he even? I don't think he even played week one. Actually, it
Yeah, I
was
don't know. I'd have to
there was
look.
quite a bit of delay in that.
Right. So the exciting part is Velde. I think that a lot of people kind of look at him as a Goss theorem candidate. That he could really pop off with this team. I like him and Anthony. I think the wings are going to be fun with this Portland team. But I mean, Kevin Kelsey, for what he is just pretty inconsistent. And then DaCosta, same thing. You just don't know what you're going to get out of that. Take David Ayala out of the equation, which is a strong, center defensive mid for this Portland team. It just feels like, again, net here is probably, maybe in my mind, a little bit negative, and I feel a little bit giving them a tad bit of grace and putting them where they finished last year. So, again, staying with that. Number 8, this is our first kind of big move for me. I got the LA Galaxy. So obviously, net overall, I think they improved. Jacob Glesnes, Hack, Jao Klaus. I think these are all improvements for this Galaxy team. But I hesitated putting them further than 8th just because I think that this is a team that's really struggling between the posts. I think there's two backup goalies fighting for a starting position. I don't like that a lot. I think Peck and Paintsel. I mean, we have to trust that they'll be in an upswing year, but they didn't really improve their their midfield possession retaining in terms of I don't know if Hack's going to be the guy that's going to collect the ball and find the wings through like Puig did. That's not exactly what he's being asked to do, but the Wings need to see more of the ball. That's what made them so good when the Galaxy were hot and won the MLS Cup. And I'm not sure we'll see that with this build out. So that's why I kind of threw them middle of the road. It's still a 16-point improvement from last season. Now, last season, anything would have been improvement. So, you got to keep that in mind too. But I think they could win 5 more games than what they were used to. So that's why I kind of put them up there. Overall, I like what they're doing. Still some glaring holes for me, but certainly it can't be as bad as last year, right? That's kind of what's running through my mind. And then at number 7, I've got the Houston Dynamo. Again, just a net positive on how their offseason went. 10-point improvement is how I'm viewing them right now. Matty Bogusz, Jack McGlynn, healthy, ideally. I think is a huge step up. Ideally, that sets up Ponce a little bit better. Ache is back. Not sure that he's going to be asked to be a starter, but I think that he was a big locker room boost last time around in Houston, and hopefully he can contribute that again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I put them at the number 7 spot. And just kind of generally, like I don't feel like they got glaringly worse, so I'm going to give them a pretty nice bump here with 10 points.
Yeah. So I'll go here. I've got at the what am I doing? My 987, right?
987, yep.
Yeah, the 9 spot. I have San Jose, and this was the big difference I had between you. And I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move them up into the unlikely category because that's in between basically what
Okay,
we.
we'll be in the middle. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I'll put them at the back of it. This I just see. And there's another team in the Eastern Conference. You're gonna hear me say this exact same thing, and I believe in the Bruce Arena bump that could happen. And I know that's maybe just senile, and I'm trusting this old man to take this team to the next level. And I understand that the Arango thing really hurts this team. I don't know what this team looks like now or how they will adjust, but I do think the Timo thing can be fun. Like I really do think that he can be a good MLS striker. I've watched him play, and yes, in like the biggest of stages, he has had times struggled with finishing, but like the MLS is not going to be the biggest of stages he's ever played in. So I do
Right.
think it's lower than Leipzig, and he was unbelievable at Leipzig on his day. So I think he has the chance as long as he's getting that chance creation made for him. I think he has a chance to be a 15 to 20 goals scorer if it all goes right. So I'm interested to see how that goes. And I like I said, the Bruce Arena thing is real for me. I've we've seen it so many times, and I think he can really do something with his team. I just think they will also need a summer transfer to really
Yeah.
hit this height that I'm talking about. And I think under him they will go and get somebody. I don't have a doubt in that, but it'll be interesting to see how they play into what they did in the first half of the season. And number 8, I have Houston, all for the same reasons you had.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a much more consistent team this year, and I think they're going to be really competitive. I think they're going to be in a lot of games, and I think as the season goes on, they're going to look better. I do think Bogus just naturally raises that ceiling of that team, and I hope that this unlocks Ponce a little bit, and I hope that Hector Herrera still has something left in the tank to offer this team. If nothing else, it's leadership, and like you said, I think that's valuable. I think that's a good thing. So I hope those things come together, and I don't know that place gets bumping when Houston's good too. I want to see them come back to life a little bit, and I think they have the talent to do it to a certain extent this year. And then at 7, another big difference I had RSL.
Ooh.
This is me telling myself they can't miss again uh, on another signing. And the Luna thing really scares me because if he goes and they aren't looking good already, this team could be, I think, in that 13th spot. And I even like that low if it goes really bad and he's gone. So will be interesting to watch. I do think they have talent. I think they have the ability to um, really be more consistent. And I know you don't like our FC Cincinnati boys. I mean, as center backs, they weren't bad. So I think they're really just hoping for them to be okay and their offense
Yeah.
to do enough. But the offense has to click to some degree, like they didn't do at the end of last year, like we were hoping for, basically for the last 8 weeks of the season, being like the playoff spot is like there for you. Just go, do anything. And it felt like they couldn't at the end of the year. So I'm really hoping Diego Luna takes the next jump in this first half. I think he's going to be playing with his hair on fire because of the World Cup. So that's partly why I'm feeling this way. I think you're going to see that caliber of player, and I think it can really help them. Okay, well, Tony, hit us with, let's do 6 through 4 here.
Okay. Yeah. So 6, Minnesota. We talked about them a bunch. I told you why I feel good. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I know that feels high, but that's 9 points worse than how they finished last year. So I'm still predicting, a drop off. I don't think they're as good a team, at least in terms of collecting points. I think they're going to be more watchable this year, and I think they still got ball players, but I just, it's not what it's going to be or what they're used to. Number 5, this one's a little bit out there. I put Austin at number 5. So that's a small upswing for them.
I'm similar.
Okay.
Don't. Yep.
Okay.
Don't.
Good. Yeah. So I put them. The Show Me More is a good category for them. I kind of look at the main thing being, you look at who their wingers are this year, and it's going to be starting Jaden Nelson and Facundo Torres, opposed to, Bukhari and Uzuni, which I'm not sure what happens once Brandon Vasquez gets back into the rhythm.
Yeah. What they do with
where
Uzuni.
Uzuni goes. Yeah, but this is a team that has a really good offense. This is a team that has a really good goalkeeper. So I think I really like their floor. It's just a matter of getting goals for them. So I think that this is a small upswing for them. I like how they've improved in the net. And then number 4, I've got Seattle Sounders. So this one is pretty similar to where they finished last year. And honestly, they have not had the craziest offseason, and honestly, they don't tend to ever. They're pretty quiet when it comes to their transfers and making, the people, he's flashing contender. I'd put him in contender.
Sorry, I'm putting there because Seattle in any tournament, I'm going to say
Correct.
you have the chance to win. So.
Yep. You're gonna want them, and this is a team that, like, I remember when I were doing the 30 days of MLS or whatever, I picked the Sounders and talked about, like, just looking at them, like, they relied on second stringers for a large chunk of their season. And those guys did great for what they were asked to do. Like they really held up their own. So this is a deep Seattle team. It's going to hurt missing Obed Vargas. They played Moneyball. They've replaced Obed Vargas in the aggregate with Pekovic and Schneider Brunel is basically, I think, how we're going to look at this. But I think this is still a very solid team. There's nothing that's happened here which makes me think they're really going to have a fall off, and there's nothing that makes me think, oh man, these guys are going to be absolutely lights out either. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I left them there at that 4 spot.
Okay. At 6, I have Austin. So I really do think Austin has. I like the upside. Facuna Torres, I know there's concern about he needs other people to be like who he is. Like he needs another guy to like create and be like a guy on that team. And I do think they have guys that have the potential to do that. Like I think if Vasquez is healthy, he can be there with him up top and scoring goals. So it'll be interesting to watch. I don't really know where the chance creation is going to come at times is my only concern. And
Owen
I
Wolf.
think
That's who it is.
yeah, well that
There
I
you
think
go.
that's big shoes for Owen Wolf
Young
to
player
fill.
of the
Like
year. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I think he's a great player. I love him, but I'm concerned that that's like a leap that I don't know if he's truly there yet, and it'll be interesting to watch. So I just feel good about the upside. Like I think they went and got an MLS proven player in the market, and that is always a good thing in my eyes. Like I think the more you can do that, the better. And an MLS proven player who was excellent in the MLS in his time, so will be fun to watch. Number 5, I have the LA Galaxy. So I'm a little bit higher on them than you are. I just think it went really bad last year, of course, we all know. Well documented. We kept just waiting for the turnaround, never happened. I think that season just needed to die for them to truly flush whatever was going on there. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, if you're them, like I know the Pooch thing sucks. I think they're glad like sorry, I'm trying to phrase it so it doesn't sound like hurtful to Pooch because
Yeah.
they want him there. They'd prefer to have him, but I think they're glad it happened when it did. If it was going to happen, so they could really adjust a little bit and go into the year going, we're not having this guy. Like we're not going to be sitting around waiting for him. Like we need to win now. And I think they're healthy. I think the back line is significantly better than it was last year. I think I'm interested to see how Justin Hack does and Glesnes and Zhao Klaus up top mixed into this. I think is going to really help unlock those wingers again. And I think his ability to really be that type of striker that can absorb contact and feed out to those guys on the wings and just let them go. This team is going to live and die by those wingers. And Gabriel Peck and Painshill, at least one of them has to go back to form. I'm not even saying both of them have to for them to get to like 5th or 6th in the Western Conference. One of them has to because neither of them did at any point last year. And I know injuries hurt them both at times. I just can't imagine this team having the injury bug like they did last year. And they still went and got better despite Pooj getting hurt again. So I think there's a bounce back. And then at 4, I have San Diego.
Mm.
Um, I really went back and forth with them, Seattle. So, I mean, a little previous, Seattle was my 3rd. I really went back and forth. I believe in Seattle's system just from longevity. I've seen it more. San Diego, of course, went off a terrific season last year. I have no doubt that they're going to be a contender again, and they're going to compete. And they could shut me up and finish first, and I wouldn't be surprised. I just see it a natural fall off to some degree. I don't think that you're reaching the same heights in the regular season that you did, and I think teams have a year under their belt to even adjust to you and what you were trying to do. So I also think the DP thing without having Lozano there and not
Yeah.
filling that is a concern. And I think that will show its head as the year goes on, where you're playing at a disadvantage to the people around you who do have players of that caliber on the field playing. And we still have no resolution. It feels like no resolution in sight either with Lozano. And who knows? Like I could even see a scenario where there's eventually, if things aren't going great, they're like, okay, do you actually want to play? Because we are paying you, and can you help us win? So it will be interesting to see if that ever happens. But I think they'll eventually just let him go, and it is going to be what it is. But I just see a little natural drop off. Once again, you could sit here and convince me they're going to finish in first, and I'm not going to be blown away by that sentiment. And I think it's back to you for 3 through 1.
Yeah. So this is the top. Um, 2 and 3, I really wrestled with. I think that it could go either way, and that's I've got right now. I got 3 at Vancouver and 2 at San Diego. So I'll start with Vancouver. We talk about all the time being in this salary cap league that one of the downfalls is when you have success, usually that comes with, well, that success has got to move on. You can't afford that anymore. And there hasn't been huge moves, but things like Ali Ahmed, Jaden Nelson going out, um, Daniel Rios are all guys that Vancouver counted on at varying degrees at different points of time. That I'm not sure how much they replaced in getting basically Az Jackson and Ollie Laraz from Colorado. Like it just and maybe it's the system. Jesper Sorensen has proven us all wrong. Last year and could easily do that again. I don't know. I just worry about the firepower of this team. Now you do get a full year of Thomas Mueller, and ideally you get way more Ryan Gauld and way more Brian White, so that should hold you up. But I don't know. That's kind of what made me notch them down to third. And then with San Diego at second, it is still a little bit of regression. They're going to be 4 or 5 points worse if they ended in second on average. That is this year, and the Chucky thing I think is the big part of that. And when Chucky played, he was pretty good for San Diego, but all the issues with the injury and the off the field stuff, and so that's not going to be the case. Like you said, not having another DP to replace him like hurts massively. But I do think that this is a San Diego team that they're pretty firm in their identity, and I think that's what makes them pretty good for plug and play. Like if you just look at the lineups that they were throwing out in the MLS Cup playoffs last year, I mean, like it was shocking. You would not rate very highly on talent this team on paper, and they were still doing the things that they were doing. A lot of it carried by Anders Dreyer, which I don't think we see any reason for a downturn this year. So that's why I put San Diego at second. Though you were like kind of moving the needle for me a little bit when talking about them at fourth. I was like the new team bump. Just kind of the vibes there. Like, I get it. So, but I'm going to hold firm and I'll leave them at 2. And then that leaves at first place in the Western Conference, LAFC. I think, well, they're not Miami, but,
I'm just kidding.
yeah. But obviously full year Sun now, pretty sure, hopefully full year Bouanga. What more needs to be said? They've also went out and got Eustachio, Chouanier. This is just a really strong team. So I obviously there's not too much to argue here. The big question mark around them is going to be the switch off from Cherundolo to Mark Santos. Dos Santos. What does that look like? Mark Dos Santos was an underling to Cherundolo, so probably a lot of similar ideas trying to flow into this. But I think that's the main thing is he able to get this team clicking to make sure that Sun and Bouanga are doing their thing and going on like scoring streaks of like LAFC's like last 15 goals. It was one of those two scoring. It needs to be like that, and I'm sure it will be. So that's why I put LAFC at number 1.
Yeah, mine's gonna feel similar as a lot of people's will at the top of the Western Conference. I have Seattle at 3, so I have them like I previewed just a little bit ago. Them and San Diego are very interchangeable. I have Vancouver at 2 for a lot of the same reasons. I think they're gonna be very good. I do think that their foundation and their floor is super high. So
Yeah.
I think if as long as some of these things go right and they can build up some of these guys like they did this past year, I think there's an avenue of success. I'm just concerned if this summer goes really well for even like a guy with Sebastian Berhalter, and then what if he's getting a big move after the World Cup because of his play, and then it hurts them in the long run. But I still think their floor is just so high, and I think they're going to be chomping at the bit to get going again after that disappointing ending of last year. So I do anticipate them doing very well. And then LAFC for all the same reasons. I think their system is going to look actually a little different. Sounds like for how they're going to play, and maybe a little less counterattacky.
Yeah.
And I think the goal is to be able to break down teams better because they struggled with that at times last year, and they really thrived at best as a counterattack team because they couldn't break down teams. So I know that's a point of emphasis. And I mean, I just believe in that duo up top. As long as Danny Bouanga's not going anywhere, I'm feeling
Right.
great about LAFC. And I think that's the only thing they should be really concerned about right now is how that all situation just fully plays out. I don't really think he's going anywhere. I think this is going to, in 6 months, feel like a random news story, and he's going to be around going forward. But let's get into the Eastern Conference here, Tony. I'll kick us off this time. I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, 15th, I think the bottom of ours is going to look pretty similar. I have Montreal,
Yep.
and I think this is going to be a lot of teams' picks for the Spoon this year. A lot of people's picks for the Spoon this year. They are going to struggle. This is just not a very deep team and a very talented team. And they continue to take flyers on people that are being pushed out from other teams and hoping they can fix them and sell them on for a little bit more money. I don't know. I don't know where attack is fully coming from besides that striker position. And I know that's a good thing to have that striker position figured out, but anything around that is not consistent. And then that defense is just going to have holes. And I just see them struggling.
Yep.
14th, I have New England. I do not believe in them having success early. I think this is a youth movement for this team. They're going to be in the youth market because of who their coach is. And I think it's going to take time. I think it's not going to be a quick success story turnaround. And I'm concerned for them if things don't start great and how this is going to go. But I do feel good about the future just because of who the coach is and who the manager is and how he's going to build up that academy and he's going to build up these guys over time. That time is just not the start of the 2026 season. So there's a team I could see getting better as the year goes on, but I think initially there might be some struggle there. And then 13th, I have DC United. We've talked about DC. I think their floor is higher because of the people they signed. I still don't think the talent is fully there. I think me and you agree on that very much in terms of. I don't even. By the way, quick send up.
Yeah.
Is anyone besides Montreal and Spoon Watch? I guess I have to put DC there out of formality, but
Yeah,
we'll do that.
there should be a tier in between unlikely and Spoon Watch, where it's
Yeah,
just like no man's
yeah.
land. Yeah.
Um, but I just see DC's floor being higher. I don't think they'll be in Spoon conversations the whole year. I think Ty Baribo is still a talented striker that can score 15 plus goals on even on a team like this, and I see their floor higher. I think they're still a transfer window or two away from even jumping up into that next tier and really pushing themselves to the next level. And I hope they do that go in the summer, and I hope they do that in the year after. I just don't think that is going to show itself early in the 2026 season.
No, we actually went 3 for 3 there at the bottom. So I had Montreal Revolution, then DC United.
Nice.
Worth noting here, I mean, Montreal is unfortunately a bottom dweller. They don't really change much in points over the year, but Revolution, that's an 8-point drop to put them there. And I think the main thing was for me that, like, I think that there is reason to be optimistic about the new coach and the new setup. I think the problem is right now that they had a wholesale, just like brought in a ton of people last year and the year before. So there's a lot of long contracts on this Revolution team that you can't pivot out of super quick. So where they're at is kind of where they're at. You got Carlos Heel. I think Dor Turgeman's someone that Revolution fans are really high on. I'm really high on. So I think there are some reasons to be excited, but and Matt Turner too. But there's too much going on and lack of quality in this team, especially if when injuries roll around. It just feels like there's nothing to fall back on here in New England. And then DC United is actually 7-point improvement. So I'm saying they're going to win 2 more games. And actually, I kind of went back and forth in my head in that one a little bit. Like I thought, I feel like they're getting more, like they're getting better than that even. But I held it there. Just didn't feel right with, how it looked ranking with everybody else. And to your point, I think they added a lot of floor raisers. Sean Johnson, Dylan Nealis, Baribo, obviously. So there's reasons to be excited there, but there's just it's a pretty incomplete, talent lacking team, unfortunately, in DC. So we went 3 for 3 there. Yeah.
Let me say before I get into these next couple and
Yeah,
chaos ensues, the Eastern Conference from about five on, like the 5 through 12 here, is chaos.
bloodbath.
It is. There are so many teams you could convince me will finish in the top 8 in that
Honestly, I
section,
wasn't even
and
convinced of like 2 through 12.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. Besides Miami, there's a lot of teams you can poke holes in, and a lot of teams
Yeah,
you can plug holes with, and be like, with optimism, and be like, okay, I could
right.
feel good if they did this one well. Um, so I say that before I go into this just bloodbath here a little later. At 12, I hate myself for this, Tony. I really hate myself for this, but I went off
Oh,
vibes, and that is
okay.
how I do
You hate the vibes then. Yeah.
NYCFC.
Whoa. Okay. Okay.
I know you're
Wow.
going to be higher on them. I know everyone. I know a lot of people are
Holy cow.
because it's the exact thing. I know, Tony. I know in 4 months I'm going to say this team is sitting in fourth, and they're going to be a team that's going to mess up someone's day in the playoffs, and I know it's going to happen. I'm just concerned with how this offseason is now gone in terms of trying to fill that attacking void and didn't go through, and now they're going the season without another true attacker to fill this injury void they have already with Martinez. And I think that could rear its head early in the season, not having someone up there that is going to be consistently finishing. We add in Justin Hack leaving. Like, there's just things I'm concerned about. And like I said, the 12th, like having the 12th, I'm upset with myself because I don't think there's that many holes, but there's so many teams above them that I'm more high on this year. And I know like the one team is going to make everyone mad and they're going to call me stupid, but it is what it is. At 11, I have Red Bulls.
Oh my.
So and this more has to do with new system, and I still just don't believe in Choupo-Moting and Forsberg as my DP duo up top. Like I just don't believe that's like a winning formula. I mean, if you think about the grand scheme of where they finished last year, I don't think this is like way off from where they were last year. And you're now adding a new coach, and maybe that's a good bump. But Michael Bradley was a coach one time for a youth team, and I'm interested to see how he handles all of this. So I'm not going to be high in them until I'm proven wrong. And then in 10th, I have
Oh
Philly.
gosh.
I have Philly. I I can't do 2 years in a row. I
Yeah.
I I picked them not to be good last year, and they proved me wrong. I can't see it again, Tony. They can't keep doing this. They can't keep getting away with this. It's that like the meme of the guy screaming it. They can't keep getting away with
Yeah.
this. Like
Yep.
they do it every year. They sell everybody, and they're still competitive. I'm gonna keep calling my shot until it's right with them having a drop off finally. And like I said, I hate all three of these. I hate them, but and I won't be surprised if all three of these teams finish like 6, 7, 8 in the Eastern Conference. Like that is how toxic the Eastern Conference is. And if anyone's mad at me right now and they're frustrated with my picks, what I would say is go try and do this yourself with the Eastern Conference because it's not easy. These teams are very hard to like pinpoint, and I think you're gonna be your list is gonna look very different.
Yeah, and when you do have it all figured out and you're sure it's perfect, please tell us and show us because I'm
Yeah.
sure we could poke holes in that. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. So my 12 and 11, very different than you, but I did hit Philly at 10 as well. So
Okay.
that's a good step. Number 12, I have Atlanta United.
Yeah. That's
Um,
but this is where I expected this.
yeah. So and here's what I actually I'm glad that you made the
Can I click
DP
on the
comment.
next one as a prediction really quick?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. You're good. You're
Yep.
good. That's
Okay.
it. Yep. Um, But I'm glad you brought up the DP argument with the Red Bulls because you're kind of thinking like I wouldn't want my two DPs to be Forsberg and Choupo-Moting, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, well, what about what may I offer you Moranchuk
Yeah.
and
I get
Latala?
it. Yeah, I
You
get
know,
it. I get it.
so that's what I would hold up there.
The coach is the
Um,
big thing for these
the
two
coach is
between.
the big
Yeah.
thing, and really that's to me mostly the only difference that's happened in this Atlanta United offseason.
Yeah.
That being
They,
said,
they have no left back.
they have no left back. But that being said, they didn't have one last season either, really. Brooks London. So sorry.
They don't even have
Um,
a body now.
yeah, exactly. Um, that being said, this is still an 8-point improvement from last year because that's
Yeah.
how bad it fell. Um, and I'm calling that the Tata swing right there. That's it. So um, that's really all I've got for Atlanta. I just don't see them improving that much. You hope for them that Tata Martino has a way of making all of this gel, but
Hmm.
that's just pretty uncertain. And the more Atlanta's been removed from Ronnie Dyla, the more the stories are coming out that like he really just didn't have a locker room that was behind him. And he was just not a good man manager. His tactics were confusing, just didn't really suit anybody, all of that stuff, right? So ideally there's some common sense, there's some clarity with Martino, but that's just one of those wait and sees. 11th, PJ teased it. I have Toronto. This is a 7-point improvement for them, roughly. So I think they are getting better. This is the thing, though. Josh Sargent, what's going on?
Yeah.
The way that got like ramped up from 0 to 100 and then just disappeared
Back to
into the
zero.
wind. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got me pretty worried. I think this team, if Josh Sargent is not there, is still okay. I mean, we think about
Yeah.
the draw streak that the Toronto went on, the infamous draw streak at 25. Mihailovic was a big piece of that. He's going to be a big piece again here this season. Walker Zimmerman's now in play. You lose Sean Johnson, which I think he was kind of punching above his weight. End up replacing him with, I think Gavron is supposed to be the starter there, who's still, half decent, probably a step down from Sean Johnson. So all that to say, like I think this is a team that's improving. It's still got flaws, it's plenty of them. It's not gonna, in my mind, probably not a playoff team, but it's heading the right direction. So that's still like a
Hmm.
sense of optimism for this Toronto that's just kind of been a bottom dweller for a while. And then I already mentioned number 10, Philadelphia Union. This is a minus 24-point swing, so this is probably the harshest I've put on anybody. But it's for the same reasons as you, PJ. It's just too much, too fast. All these changes, they can't keep getting away with this. And then not to kind of put a damper on the conversation too, but Ernst Tanner is still under investigation right
Yeah.
now for a lot of things that he was accused of, and I think while that's happening, he's on leave. So, the architect behind a lot of the moves in this Philly build is not even really behind the desk at the moment, or at least not in a very normal way. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but already doing something really hard to replicate and then making the person who's doing that not be there anymore. It doesn't seem right. So there's a lot of things going into that, but I just think that this is the end of the Philly bubble.
Yeah. Here at 9, jump into it. I've got Atlanta. So I don't have them like way higher. I'm not going
Okay.
crazy, but
Yeah.
I've talked about it all off season. I really do believe in the toss. It's like the Bruce Arena thing. This was the team I was comparing. These two teams that are coaches for me that make the difference, and we've seen it over and over. So I'm interested to know how he unlocks Latte Lots. He cannot be as bad as he was. There's just no way that he can be as bad as he was, and if he is, then this might be go down as one of the worst transfers of all time.
Biggest
So
grift. Yeah.
it'll be interesting to watch. I really do think they'll be better this year, and it could be more competitive. And I would be interested. I really want them to be good initially because I think it'd be cool to see a team of that size go into the summer transfer window after the World Cup, knowing they're competing for a playoff spot and they can go get someone and fill a void. So and do something, be creative. And at the 8th spot, I have Toronto. So
Ooh.
I've got Toronto coming back to glory. This is also me just really hoping this Josh Sargent thing works out because it's still out there as a possibility. So we shall see. But I feel bad for Josh as a side note. I think this has all gone pretty horrible for him in terms of what it's doing for his career. So I really hope all sides just come to an agreement. And week 3, he comes in and they're able to keep it rolling. And I really do think they did great moves this offseason to help build a foundation. I think Walker Zimmerman is going to do wonders for that defense. And I think they are taking such a clear approach to get leadership in the locker room that is MLS proven. And that is such a different approach they've taken as more recently with the Italians and the star power that they're going. This is true winning type moves where you're being a professional organization. So I like that. And then at 7, I have Chicago. I think
Hmm.
this is right around where they were last year. I can be convinced of them going higher. I think that this attack is actually going to be really dynamic this year. And who knows, maybe a certain Robert Lewandowski might be joining them in the summer as well. So that's something to keep an eye on for. And I would really be interested to know how that would work because I don't think Hugo Kuipers would be a huge fan of that move and what that would do for him. And that's a team. I heard on another podcast someone put it out there, like, well, could that be the Toronto home for Hugo Kuipers if a move like that happens and if
Yeah.
Josh Sargent doesn't happen? So he would go down as one of probably the highest cash furs of all time if that something like that happened and they wanted to move on from him. So it will be interesting to watch that. I just think their floor is pretty high now with Chicago. I think they will compete in and out. They will have some really big blowouts and they'll get blown out a couple times and they'll find ways to win games and do enough to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah. So let's see here. I'm going to be a little bit different than yours. Number 9, I got Red Bulls. Um, Not, a huge swing for them. They just barely missed out in the playoffs last year. I have them in the playing game this year. I think that ultimately how I'm viewing this team is a slight net positive. I think their attack gets better with adding Ruvasalba and Kate Cowell. But then also subtract Carlos Coronel, subtract Sean Nealis. Those are pretty worrisome. And I just and all I think they're going to be a little bit different than what we're used to. I think with Michael Bradley coaching this team that it's not going to be a full on press team like the Red Bulls were used to. I think it's going to be a little bit different. But all that to say, I do think they're going to be a fun team to watch. I think that it's going to be pretty open games. I think that their attack is going to be good and their defense is going to be bad. So that's a recipe for good neutral watching right there. So I got them at 9. I got number 8 NYCFC. You're making me feel like I put them a little high, but I have to remember where we're coming from here. This is still a 10-point downswing roughly. It's also I agree with the Alonso Martinez point. We do have Tyus Magno now. He can fix everything. Um, but I think that a couple pieces that we really didn't get to see too much in action that I think have some promise with them. DP Nico Fernandez,
Mm-hmm.
on the wing, and we still have Hannes Wolf who's going to be duking it out with Tyus Magno, and maybe one of those two play striker to fill in for Alonso. There's options there. Hack is gone, and that stinks. I think that he was a great value player, but he was not the focal point of the defense. Thiago Martins was, and he's their DP center back. He's still around. I think he's still going to be an anchor. So I see reason, with Alonso Martinez not there, I see reason for a downfall. But at the same time, this is a team that I feel like ultimately was still kind of catching and finding their stride, and a team that made it to the Eastern Conference Final. So that's one that I felt like I just could not keep them out of the playoffs. I think that they're going to find a way in that sense. And then I've also heard and seen really good things with their coach Pascal Janssen. Just that he does a lot more of the minute tactical movement stuff that really throws teams off. And actually, I sent this on Twitter today, PJ. I don't know if you saw this, but NYCFC experimenting with a new corner defending glitch that they may have hacked here, where they send up like half their team and put them at the halfway line in the circle to counter, which then makes you too scared to like really cross in, and so that a bunch of your players go back, and I don't know. So he views the game different. I think there's a lot of people that say really high things about him. I'll leave it at that. New York City at 8. 7, I got Orlando. I think more or less about where they ended last year. The difference is they've added a lot of like promising young Brazilian talent. That's where they're at. You're also counting on Duncan McGuire, young promising talent, riddled with injuries, could have gone to the championship. You've got that. Schlegel out, which was a thing they needed for a while. Robin Johnson returning, that's great as well. And then yeah, so I mean, yeah, you're missing out on Gaiese, who is that's probably a good thing. I mean, his highs were high, but his lows were really low. And I think all of that to say, like, I think this is an Orlando team that net. Again, this is how I just can't help it, but look at everybody's offseason is did you get better, did you get worse? I think it kind of nets about neutral. I think it's about the same. So I kind of left them right where they ended last year. I think this is a team that if you're facing them, you can't let your guard down. But at the same time, I think that they will be have trouble against a lot of teams too that are really coming to play. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. At 6, we have, or I have, Columbus, and I think this is a team I could see finishing as high as second if things go right. I think this is more
yeah,
just has to do with the unknown of the coach. The talent is still there. Abu Ali, Diego Rossi, like these guys are still there. They're going to compete, and Max Arfson's still there. Who knows how long he'll be there? He might not be there the whole year. So they've still got guys. It's just they had Nanti last year with all these guys, and they still did not finish great and did
yeah,
not have a great, especially second half of this year at times, and were inconsistent. Who knows? Maybe that was because he was 1 foot out the door already, but it will be interesting to see how they adjust under a new system and a new manager. It's a new Columbus team, really, and that's why I put them at 6. I want to see it before I really put them higher on this list. At 5th, I have Orlando. I know we're slightly different there.
yeah.
I think their floor is high, and I think they still have so much talent, and I think they have a good amount of talent around these these young guys that are coming in, and these young Brazilians. Where if you can hit on at least one or two of these, like that's only going to raise that floor even more. So I believe I think something to watch is new management in charge there, beside not coach but general management behind him, and it'll be interesting to see what that dynamic is like if things don't go well, because this is a general manager and a front office person that did not hire this coach, and that tends to go wrong eventually. It may not be this year, but
Yeah.
that they always tend to want to bring in their guy to extend their lifespan as a sporting director, and really make sure that they get their guy to coach their players they went and got. So will be interesting to see that dynamic. In 4th, I have Charlotte, and I think Charlotte has the ability to make that leap, and I think they would be more consistent. I My only concern with this team is where goals are going to come from at times, and I think they need someone to take the reins there. Toklamati, someone to jump up,
Yeah.
that be able to be the guy this year, and I think one of them will. And I think you need Wilfred Zaha to still produce at some level and be a chance creator. And I really just do believe in their defensive structure, and I think they're going to be in almost every single game because of that. And I think Tim Ream's going back to a natural center back positioning now than he was at times compared to last year, and I think that's going to be better for this team and how he defends. So it will be interesting to watch. I think Charlotte has the ability to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference this year if that attack hits, and I think they will to an extent.
Okay. Our lineup there is pretty similar. So at 6, I had the Crew. And I agree with you full heartedly. I think that was a really hard team for me to place, mostly based on what's the coach situation going to look like, and it seems like with Rydstrom, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that, that there's going to be a streak of Nancy in him, but how much of that we don't know, and that's just one of those things you kind of have to see and play out. So that's why I left him at the 6th spot. 5th, I had Chicago, so this is where I moved them up to. Actually, on points, this is about the same as where they ended last year. I think that this team does have the potential to get even higher. I think Berhalter, with more time with these guys, instilling his setup, instilling his guys, I think is going to be ultimately good. But just in terms of movement right now, not an awful lot. I mean, adding Robin Lod is a good thing to be a stopgap for Franco's injury. But outside of that, I mean, you rely on Bamba, you rely on Zinkernagel, and then of course Kuipers, and then crazy scenario if Lewandowski comes in, you get even better at striker ideally, right? So there's room for growth there, but I don't know. I'm not sure about it yet. It's the Chicago Fire experience of it all for me that kind of held me at fifth, and then fourth I also had Charlotte. Um, with Charlotte, this is actually a little bit of a downswing year for them. And I look at this team and I'm not sure that they really got that much worse. I just think it's these top three that you just have to make room for in this. That being said, I think that the big question mark that I have with Charlotte is what do they do with that Melanda sized void in the
Mm-hmm.
back? And Andrew Privett's probably going to be the step in center back. Charlotte's familiar with him. He's been on the team for a while and would always step in. But it certainly is a little bit of a downswing there. And then, if I'm understanding his profile correctly from just kind of how I remember things, like he tends to get a little bit bullish, a little bit aggressive, leaving space to cause a challenge. And I think that could leave Tim Ream pretty vulnerable, just, given that he's not the most mobile center back in this league. So there is problems there. But yeah, Luca De La Torre helps provide a lot of possession, a lot of strength on the ball in your core. So I think that's helpful too. Pep Biel should be healthy. There's things to look up on the Charlotte team, but in all, I think that it's kind of, to me, looks like a team that is sort of kind of holding the course from where they're at. Again, kind of net neutral offseason in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, totally. In third, I have FC Cincinnati. I think they will continue to be consistent. Upside, I think, is these two and Evander and Dinky really hit this year, and they learned to play better together. They need some offensive jolt in this squad for sure. I think Brian Ramirez will help having somebody in the left back that's going to actually play this year and be an attacking threat versus what they had last year. I think the negatives you can put on this team are if things aren't going great between that dynamic, one of them's being shipped out in the summer, and I could see that happening, and or at the end of the year at least, and they're gonna have to shake it up a little bit. I do just think that their floor is so high if they have a healthy back line, like they will just be in every game and have the chance to win it, especially at home. They'll dominate with a back line like that, and with game winners like Evander on your team, you have a chance to win with that type of back line. So second, I have Nashville. This team went out and got the biggest free agent on the market. They have more chance creation. Sam Sturridge was second place in goals last year. Hani Mukhtar, you're just taking more off his plate, which is only a good thing because he can go even be a better goal scorer because of that. I think this team could be so good this year. I think I just need to see consistency on the back line for me to really believe. And Walker Zimmerman being gone, like that's a thing. You can't really avoid that. Like even if he was diminishing in skill, his leadership back there is something you can't just replace. So I'll be interested to watch how they play early on this season. But that attack, I mean, on set pieces with Surridge, even at worst, and then you've now got Christian Espinoza just swinging balls in. We talked about it as a joke early last year, where it was this team, all they do is cross ball in. Well, they got another guy to do it at even better
Yeah.
ability, and it's going to work. They're going to be in games, and they're going to score a lot of goals with that three-headed monster up top. And of course, we've got to put Miami in the Miami category. We've talked about them all off season. This team only won the MLS Cup to then go and just sign everybody in the world and get better. And the depth on this team is insane. If you just go read their roster,
Yeah.
it is insane to see the guys that are not even starting on this team week one in the MLS, and they're going to be competing in a ton of competition, so they need it, and it'll be interesting to watch. Of course, Messi, we don't know if he's playing week one. It sounds like he won't, if I'm reading things correctly.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they adjust to that. I just think this team is talented enough, despite that, to still win games. So they will find a way to win. They will win, and we're just going to put them in the Miami category.
Yeah. So I'll start with the one we got the same with Miami. Enough said. We know where that's going. I have Cincinnati and Nashville flip. So I have Cincinnati in second, Nashville in third. I think that's really tight race, but also historically, you look at the numbers. Cincinnati's in for a little bit of a downswing. Nashville's in for a little bit of an upswing. part of the reason why I put them where they're at. Um, I think obviously Espinosa is a great get. What I worry about with this Nashville team is defense. Obviously, that's a big part of it. I think Joe Willis in net has not been outstanding at times. And then you look at really this midfield. And Eddie Tagseth has been like a really good bright spot of it. But after that, I mean, it just feels like there has not been a lot for Nashville to rely on in that defensive mid. So there's not really, for me, a great spine in place with Nashville. And I say that in relative terms to like where they're aiming, what their hopes are. Like obviously this is a better spine than like a spoon contender or like I would say it's more like an average team spine is I guess where I'll put it. But when you're swinging for the fences like this, you need to be clicking on all cylinders in all phases of play. I just don't know. I just worry about that for them. And then you add into
Yeah.
the fact, one of the big swings for Nashville has been Andy Nahart, right back. He's really crept up and been that guy that provides a lot of service to Hani and to Sam Surridge. He's going to be on the same side as Espinoza now. So there's two ways you can look at that. You can say, hey, that right wing, I mean, if those two are really interchanging and clicking, that's a dangerous right wing. But if that ball doesn't hit the back of the net, well, now there's a gaping hole on that right side of the field because everybody's tilted up and over there. So I think this Nashville team is going to need to rely on a lot of defensive respect from their opponents. But the moment that bubble pops, if that offense goes cold and teams can run up on you, I don't know. That's where it's still this team's finishing third. Anywhere from like 55 to 60 points. Like it's still a great season. But those are the kind of things that I worry about from keeping them kind of in that upper echelon. And with Cincinnati, obviously, very similar season or roster compared to last season. I think Orejano to Ramirez is the big flip there at left wing back. But didn't really get the full Orejano experience in 2025 just with injuries and getting back in fitness. So ideally that Ramirez provides more firepower. I think it makes Cincinnati a little bit more multidimensional. You're not relying on just Echenike to bomb down a wing, and so you can just shade over and cover that. When you have to worry about both sides of the field, and then also, hey, by the way, Evander's looming somewhere in the middle there, and he can unlock anything. Those are the kind of things that I think unsettle a defense and make a successful offense. And it seems to be that everything coming out of Cincinnati camp has been like, yeah, we're really trying to get Danke and Evander linked together, that they're synced up. So if that's been a big focal point and, for an entire offseason, I think that's probably been addressed decently. We'll put, faith in a coaching staff that has been in place for like 5 years now. That they're still there for a reason, and being an MLS coach for that long is a funky thing that, that's not a mistake. So all that to say, I think that there's reason to think that, this Cincinnati team probably won't be able to get the highs of Miami, but still be a team that, would like their matchup on any other given match day, except for maybe LAFC. So that's kind of where I landed with all of these guys and how I ended up flopping 2 and 3 like that.
Yeah. Well, take a look. This is our final tier list that we have for all the teams this year. If you have an issue with it, go yell at us on social media. I dare you. Please come into the comment section.
And make a perfect one.
I will fight back and say, come talk to me at the end of the year. So all those Montreal fans that said, no, we're making the playoffs, bring it on.
Yeah.
All jokes aside, this is – I'm going to stop sharing that really quick. This is one of my more favorite episodes to go through every year. It's fun to just predict because we're going to be wrong. It's going to happen, and some teams are going to come out of nowhere. No one in their right mind thought Philly was going to do what they were doing, and it's just going to happen. There's going to be a team that's going to do it, and it'll be fun to watch. Before we get out of this episode, though, really quick, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time. We just talked about all these teams. Let's go through some awards here. We'll start with, do you got a Defender of the Year? I'll go with mine really quick. I did Miles Robinson, and I told you in the pre-show, my only reasoning was my team is spending money on a DP defender and he better earn it.
Make it
That's it.
worthwhile. Yep, I
That's
get
it.
it. I went with Mikael, sorry,
Mhm.
with Miami. A lot of times this, award winner goes to
Winning
like
team.
who's going to be, the top team that, who's just the main center back on the top team. So that's all my math. Yeah, that's it too.
Who do you have for Golden Boot?
I put Surge. I did. I do worry about that though. Just kind of too many cooks in the kitchen type thing. If you got Hani and Espinoza now, I just wonder if there's going to be a little bit of the love shared there. But I decided to shut all that down and just say this team's going to be all gas, no brakes, and just
Yep.
put Surge.
I did Son. I just think
Yeah,
with how I'm viewing LAFC this year, he's going to have to score goals. And the rate for how long he was in the league and the minutes he played, the rate he scored goals last year was ridiculous. So seeing that over a full year will be interesting to see what kind of numbers he can put up. My only concern is just the World Cup being smack dab in the middle where he's going to be the guy for South Korea, what that does to him and how that affects him mentally after the World Cup. I mean, watching him as my other favorite team with Spurs all these years, I just don't think he's the type of guy that's gonna like not show up and not try. And I think he's still gonna go for it with LAFC. For MVP, I also have Son.
wow,
In my mind, I said if I'm predicting LAFC to go in first in the West, like if he's winning Golden Boot, then he has to be the MVP unless Messi does Messi things. I just also think Messi is going to be really hit or miss with the World Cup early this season, and I think that could affect his numbers. Now we've seen that in the past, not because
yeah.
he just shows up and he puts up ridiculous numbers. But I think Son's just going to play more, and I think there might be a little Messi fatigue that happens over these years, where they're like, okay, we can't just keep giving him the MVP if someone else is close. Like we should give it to somebody else, and I think that could come into play with Son winning it.
Well, but the problem is that it's like a player vote, it's a media vote.
No, I know. I think it could happen
Like
across the board.
yeah,
I
that's
think.
true. But I just ran with it because again, it's a narrative thing. If it's not one of those two, it's going to be absolutely shocking. If it's not Messi or Son, like that would be a fun season. But I have Messi. It makes too much sense. That's it. Can't doubt it. Every time you
Yep.
do, he pops up. So
Who do you have for Shield?
Shield, I have LAFC. I just think
So
that
do I.
Miami's going to go really hard on everything they do, and just typically that burns you a little bit on points when it comes to MLS standings when you're playing all these CONCACAF games when you're going through in Leagues
Yeah,
Cup. So
it
yeah,
did last year.
yeah,
They went through it last year. So I agree. That's also why I put Sun as MVP because if they're winning the Shield as well, like that's just
yeah.
another reason. Like I'm all these things combined is kind of why I went that route. MLS Cup, I went Miami. It's boring. I just they're gonna go through the World Cup. They're gonna hit the point and they're just gonna cruise through the playoffs in the Eastern Conference and take on whoever's left in the Western Conference and probably win.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what their goal is to make the playoffs. They'll figure out the rest later. Um, yeah, that enough said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for our Tuesday episode for the first time in the new season of our MLS predictions. This is a ton of fun. Please interact with us on social media. Share if you get the notification and you're like, why is it on Tuesday? We're back. We're back to 2 episodes a week. So
So
let
back.
everyone know. Post it on your story that Talking Pitch Side's back to 2 days a week. But we appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. On Friday, we are pre-recording, so you're going to see us in the same exact outfits if you're watching this
Oh, I thought
podcast.
we were going to change after this.
Tony's going to
I'm
change
just,
after
I'm
this.
just
And
kidding.
we're pre-recording, so we're doing all the predictions. I said it last week. If people get injured after we record this, sorry. We're going based on what
Yeah.
we know at this point. And so there will be a Friday episode that will be pre-scheduled and put out there for you guys as well. Now, the following Tuesday, I'll talk about this when I do this next episode. We will not have an episode because of our travel to London. So bear with us. We will be back the following week and do a very long Friday episode to kind of do quick recaps and a preview of the weekend to come. But with that being said, we will see you guys on Friday.